Hi everyone, today we're talking about service level agreements, or SLAs. Nowadays, most large business organizations rely on the services provided by other companies. And for many companies, the majority, if not all of their business, comes from creating services that other companies can use. So, what is a service? A service is a means of delivering value to customers by facilitating outcomes customers want to achieve without the ownership of specific costs and risks. For example, Bob has a company and he has more employees than he can handle. He might look to ADP, a company that provides payroll and HR services, to ensure that each employee's time and pay is managed correctly.
So once you're having a service, then we need to find out how it fits into the broader context of the organization. As we know, then ITIL gives us a nice framework and guidelines on how we can organize our IT infrastructure. And services, and specifically our service level agreements, fit into the category of service design. Now under that category, then there are 4 subsections that ITIL has specified. For example, we need to understand what services our company has available to its employees. We need to also understand where our services are coming from by understanding the supplier management. But we also need to understand service level management, and that is the parent to the area where service level agreements come in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, a service level agreement, again, is an agreement between the client or your business, if you were the business owner, and the provider of the service. So in the example of Bob the Builder, then he would be playing the role of the client, establishing a service level agreement for the payroll service that ADP provides. Service level management is, again, the parent category that houses the service level agreement, and it's comprised of 2 cycles. So in the first cycle of service level management, we would be involved with talking about the different guidelines of how a company might use a service. First, you may begin with negotiating the terms of use. You'd come to an agreement and you'd seek to understand how the service would be used within the context of your organization. This would lead to the creation of a document that is called the service level agreement, which contains those items previously agreed upon. Now in the next step of the cycle, then we want to include kind of a sort of maintenance. We would want to report to the company on how the service is being used. We may want to improve our conditions of use, and we'd also need to monitor the use of the service to make sure that it fits within the confines of the service level agreement. If any of those things are violated, then it could result in trouble with either the company or legal issues, so it's a very important component of the service level management process.
According to ITIL, a service level agreement is an agreement between an IT service provider and a customer. The SLA describes the IT service, documents service level targets, and specifies the responsibilities of the IT service provider and the customer. A single SLA may cover multiple IT services or multiple customers. To put it a little more simply, an SLA defines what both the IT service provider and the customer should expect when contracting for a service. So let's talk about the different components of an SLA. The first major component of an SLA is the service description. This lays out a definition of the service that the provider is giving to the client. Reliability defines when the service is available and the limits that outages can be expected to stay within. Reliability is often measured as uptime. Responsiveness refers to the punctuality of services to be performed in response to requests and scheduled service dates. Another major component of an SLA is having a procedure for reporting problems. This includes who can be contacted, how problems will be reported, procedures for escalation, and what other steps need to be taken to resolve the problem efficiently. It's important that service level stakeholders decide who will monitor performance, what data will be collected, and how often, as well as how much access the customer is given to performance statistics. SLAs often describe consequences for not meeting service obligations. These may include credit or reimbursement to customers or enabling the customer to terminate the relationship. Finally, escape clauses or constraints are also important in an SLA. Escape clauses discuss circumstances under which the level of service promised does not apply. An example could be an exemption from meeting uptime requirements in situations where floods, fires, or other hazardous situations damage the ISP's equipment.
An important part of every SLA are metrics that we can use to check whether or not the agreed upon terms are being met. There are several different metrics that you can use, and it kind of varies business to business or service to service, but some common ones would be an average speed to answer time, which would be something like how long it takes to hear back from the service when you have an issue or a question. The abandonment rate, so in an example where we're looking at a call center that's being used as a service to handle customer support, an abandonment rate would be how long customers have to wait and how many of them give up on the call and terminate the call before their issue's been resolved. Turnaround time is also another really common one. This is basically the amount of time it takes to have a task completed on average. Now, what we're looking at here is basically the 4 different parts of the strategy process. So the first part is to plan. Planning is basically where you establish expectations with the customer. You clearly state the terms of the service your company offers. From there, the do section is where you set up the customer and basically give them any resources that they may need, including training or anything else to use the service. The check step is where we verify that all the expectations of the customer are being met by comparing their service performance with the SLA targets. So that's where we can make sure that the things we've agreed upon in the SLA are actually happening. And then the act section is where anytime some of those things aren't being met, anything in the SLA isn't being fulfilled as described, then action needs to be taken to correct whatever's making that not happen the way it was described.
All right, so thank you for your attention in listening to our presentation. As you can, hopefully you've gained a broader understanding of what a service level agreement entails and how it could be used in your organization or an organization that you may work for. Hopefully you've seen that a service level agreement is a contract between a client and a provider, and while it can be designed to protect the interests of both. On the one hand, then it would protect the client by making sure that the service provider is providing quality service and that they're meeting the obligations that they've agreed to. And it also means that the client is using the service in the way that was specified in the service level agreement. So thank you and have a great day.